Wake up, wake up. Larry Krueger, Damon Bruce, brought to you by Sam's Chowder House. A lot of NFL playoffs to talk about. Niners still looking for 3 coordinators. Let's go.
Yeah, welcome. It is great to have you here. Like and subscribe if you would, please. Thanks to Sam's Chowder House for sponsoring us as always. And Larry, I would say that you don't look a day over 55, but you actually look exactly 1 day over 55. 24 hours older than 55 is exactly what you look like today. Is there any reason to that?
Yes, well, yesterday was birthday number 55 and celebrated it by just hanging out with the family and made a nice dinner, watched some football, won a bunch of bets. I'm rolling in my football betting these days, absolutely rolling. I don't think I've rolled like this in a long time.
You and I, we went over it on Friday. We didn't really talk about spreads, but I think we predicted everything correctly except that Houston Texans upset over the San Diego Chargers, or excuse me, Los Angeles Chargers. Never going to get used to saying that. But outside of that, I think we pretty much nailed every single prediction or, intuition that we had about these games this weekend.
Well, and to me, obviously there's a bunch of people today talking about all these playoff games that happened over the weekend. And I think the favorites won most of the time, right? Except for that game you're talking about, the Texans were the underdog. But I'll tell you that was the game of all of them this weekend that kind of made me pause for a second, because I pretty much saw what I thought I was going to see this weekend, right? And we talked about it. Ravens were quite a bit better than the Steelers. They proved to be 2 touchdowns better. The Bills were in a totally different class than Denver. And even though Denver scored first and kept that game really close, it was 10-7 at halftime. The Bills outscored them 21-0 in the second half and win 31-7, and it was a party. I said the Eagles were better than the Packers. Dieter and I had a little wager on that one. That came down, and I thought that Jaden Daniels would handle the road of Tampa well, and I thought the Commanders would beat the Buccaneers on the road. So all of those games kind of went the way I thought they were going to go. I did think the Chargers were going to Houston and they were going to beat the Texans, and this is the game that I want to talk about because, Damon, I don't know if you see this thing playing out like it did this weekend where it's pretty form, it's going to be pretty much according to form, or if you see any big bumps in the road. But all I would say is watch out Kansas City for this Houston Texan team. Not that they are looking that great offensively. The line's just okay. Stroud is still very young. Mixon's a very good running back, but nothing super special. Nico Collins is really good. But on the other side of the ball, on D'Amico's defense, he's got Azeez Al-Shaair and Henry To'o, whatever, from De La Salle, who are just firing left and right on that second level. I mean, just absolutely looking great. I mean, just great. And then you've got Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter coming off the edges. Those guys look amazing. But the story here is Derek Stingley Jr. and Kamari Lassiter, because now the Texans have the equivalent of 2 true number 1 corners. And you saw what it looked like yesterday. I mean, the Chargers don't have great receivers, but they just locked them up, man. Kamari Lassiter is 6 feet, 180, physical prototype, second-round pick out of Georgia. If he had been an inch and a half taller, he's in the first round. So, and he's playing like a first-round corner and like a number 1 corner. And then Stingley Jr. is playing like a guy who was drafted in front of Sauce Gardner. And those 2 guys, it's like we haven't seen a team, Damon, that has been able to pop onto the scene in the playoffs with 2 number 1 shutdown kind of corners. And all I'll say is, man, Kansas City, Kelsey better have a day, and Kansas City better run it. Because if Kansas City thinks that Mahomes is going to make a bunch of plays against against these two corners, I don't know, man. Maybe out of the slot, Lad McConkey got 9 catches for 197 out of the slot. So maybe the slot corner is where you can go, but you're not beating Lassiter and you're not beating Stingley.
Well, I agree with an awful lot of that, but I also don't think that we're going to get Patrick Mahomes beating himself the level to which Justin Herbert sabotaged his team's chances to win it all. I don't see the mistakes being made around that really good defense being played. And I also think that the Texans are going to get overwhelmed on the line of scrimmage by the Kansas City Chiefs defense. That game is in Kansas City. Hey, man, I hope you're right. Give me an upset. Give me a great game. We only got one really edge of your seat. The whole thing was competitive football game, and it was, the cherry on top of our Sunday night football. Buccaneers last night laying down at home and watching, Jaden Daniels win another game on the last play of the game. I mean, it's unbelievable how often he is doing that. Hey, man, I hope you're right. CJ Stroud and company, go get him. I'd love to see it. Give me something other than the Chiefs back in the Super Bowl, but I think we're going to get the Chiefs back in the Super Bowl, and I just don't see Patrick Mahomes playing the can't win with that happening level of football that Justin Herbert put out there. I mean, 4 interceptions is a death sentence. And that was it. Lad McConkey, though, well, I mean, he came to play. That was for sure.
Well, and then, that's the other part of this game is that, obviously Pearsall was taken in front of McConkey. McConkey just had a monster game. All the quarterback comparisons between Herbert and Purdy. And I get it. Herbert looks like, central casting quarterback. I mean, literally, if the NFL was having a movie about the quarterback position and every quarterback had a chance to audition for the role, he'd probably get it because he's the guy who looks most like a franchise quarterback. He's big, broad shoulders, huge arm. But you know what? This guy does not win games. And you can say he didn't have a coach, but he's got a coach now, and he had 4 interceptions. He was sacked 4 times. To me, the number one beatdown of the weekend was the Texans' defensive front against the Chargers' offensive line.
Yeah, that was a surprise.
The Chargers, I don't know what happened to their offensive line, but their offensive line just fell apart in this game. They couldn't run the ball. That, to me, if there's one other thing that stood out about these games outside of the quarterbacks, it was look at the way these games came down. The winning teams, for the most part, Damon, ran the hell out of the football and totally dominated the time of possession. Baltimore ran 50 times for 299, possessed the ball for almost 40 minutes, 39-33. Houston ran 34 times for 168. They possessed the ball for 34 minutes and 25 seconds. Buffalo ran the ball 44 times for 210 and held the ball for over almost 42 minutes. And then you look at this Houston game. This was, once again, the team that won was Houston. And what did they do? They ran the ball with Joe Mixon and they dominated the time of possession. And what did the Chargers not do? For the first time, seemingly almost all year, they had J.K. Dobbins and they couldn't run the ball. 2.8 carries. So if you want to win, we can talk quarterbacks and we will. But if you want to win, you'd better be able to run the ball, dominate the time of possession, play complementary football, protect your defense. And this is something the 49ers can start their rebuild in a number of places. I suggest they start it at on their offensive line and at running back. Start developing a strong rushing attack, because if you have one, you got a shot.
Look, everything that happened in terms of how those teams went about winning are Kyle's top priorities as a head coach, right? I mean, this year was a little funny, and it's hard to say it after a year where it felt like the running game was abandoned in odd moments and situations and wasn't nearly the focus of the offense that it was just a couple of years ago. But man, I mean, this is what Kyle does. He wants to win that time of possession, run the ball, more than 35 times. What Kyle's undefeated when they carry the ball more than 42 times or whatever it is. It's a gaudy number. This is what the 49ers used to do. And this is winning playoff football. It really is. So yeah, man, if you want to dominate a game, you're not going to do it unless you're dominating the line of scrimmage. And nothing says we got line of scrimmage on lock like a running game popping against a playoff defense. So, yeah, I would start along the offensive line too. If they were to burn their first pick on their defensive line, you're not going to get much brushback from me or blowback. I think that's also a wise thing to do for them. But man, it's, I saw so much conversation around Brock Purdy, around Justin Herbert, and, what is a great quarterback? What is quarterback value? How do you assign who's good at what anymore? And blah, blah, blah. What happened to Justin Herbert yesterday, and I'll agree with you, he is number one coming out of the casting agency to play the role of quarterback in the movie. But what happened to Justin Herbert yesterday should only prove to everybody, A, how really good Brock Purdy has been in high leverage games, and two, how difficult this all really is. Like, you can check every single box of physical prototype, of skill level, of strength, speed, height, everything, and Justin Herbert checks all of these boxes, and Brock Purdy checks, with all due respect, very few of these boxes. Who would you rather have? Herbert's now 0-2 in the playoffs and just completed his 5th NFL season. Brock Purdy, in half the time in the league, is undefeated in the wild card round, undefeated in divisional play. He won a conference title game, probably would have won 2, but got injured so early in another one that the Niners lost that one. And, he didn't win a Super Bowl, but the guy is 4-2 in his postseason opportunities. Is it all him? Is he the only one out there representing the San Francisco 49ers? No, there's a lot of defense. There's a lot of other players too. But it seems to be forgotten around Brock, but, always brought up around other guys when they struggle. If Brock Purdy ever had a playoff game in the neighborhood of the playoff game that Justin Herbert just had, the Golden Gate Bridge would jump off the Golden Gate Bridge. You know what I mean? Like, people would be going nuts, Larry. People would be going crazy if that actually happened. And my suggestion is just this, because, we got Brock truthers, we got Brock deniers. Everybody is so dug into their own position. There's very little crossover. I've seen the light. I think he's a good quarterback now. Or, I used to believe in him. Now I don't anymore. It's people are in their camps for sure. But at some point, you have to stop evaluating the prospect and evaluate the player. And Brock Purdy is as good of a player as Justin Herbert is, even though he'll never be as good of a prospect as Justin Herbert was.
Well, it's the old saying, don't judge the book by the cover. Well, it's a great saying, except nobody believes in it. Everybody's constantly judging everybody for everything. I've been profiled. I've been this, I've been that. Everybody's everything. You walk down the street, people are evaluating you. They're evaluating you for how you look, what you're wearing, and they're making judgments on you, whether they're correct or not. If one day you look this way, they're going to judge you one way. The next day you look that way, they're going to judge you that way. If you got a really fancy, $1,000 suit on or whatever, people are going to look at you one way. If you're walking down the street wearing dirty, ripped, terrible clothes, people are going to judge you another way.
Right. Look,
and everybody likes to say, "Oh, I don't judge a book. I'm all about character." Fuck you. You're not about character. You're just all wrapped up in your feelings. That's what you are.
There's a saying in the restaurant industry that we eat with our eyes before we eat with our mouth, right? You look at that plate, and if it's a really well-dressed and appointed plate, oh my God, this meal is going to be incredible. So we do eat with our eyes. We do judge with our eyes, just no bias. I won't judge this book by its cover. You're right. It doesn't exist. But, at some point, you have to stop insisting that you don't like what you see and start judging what you're getting based on what's actually happening. And that seems to be, turning yesterday's football afternoon into a conversation about Brock Purdy. Like, if that's your instinct, it means you only have one song to play when the audience walks in the room. You're a one-trick pony. And I think that there was an awful lot of people volunteering what one-trick ponies they are, covering this team by, Brock would never, Herbert would never, blah, 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 blah. What's this guy worth? That guy's worth that. I mean, dude, this is all really, really hard. Playoff football is hard. And get to know this, and this is the truth. This is the absolute truth. Good quarterbacks can have bad days, especially in the postseason.
Here's the thing. Here's the one question I would have. I've got a buddy who believes that NFL playoffs are easy to handicap, that you always take the better quarterback, and if you do, you're going to win almost all the time. So, and then if it held true this weekend, and when it was close, the team that had the big time running game for the most part won. I mean, is Herbert better? Is Jalen Hurts better than Love? Well, no, not necessarily. He might be, he might not be. They're pretty close, but one's got Saquon Barkley, and not that Josh Jacobs is chopped liver. But I mean, Saquon Barkley's having a great year, and they've got a terrific offensive line, and they ran the ball really effectively. Jacobs was decent, 18 for 81. Saquon was 25 for 119. Philly ran it for almost 170 yards and 5 yards a pop. So, to me, it's a lot about the quarterbacks, but it's also, and if that holds true, if the best, if the best quarterbacks, if Josh Allen's better than Bo Nix, winner. If Jaden Daniels better than Mayfield, winner. If Lamar's better than Russell, winner. If Stroud's better than Herbert, winner. Well, does that mean that you like the Rams tonight with Stafford because he's clearly better than Goff? Well, I don't know that I would, but you know what? It definitely makes me feel like the Rams have a shot. But once again, back to my original point, look at the way the teams played this weekend. The average number of carries, like you hear Shanahan say, hey, man, if we can get to 30 carries, we feel like we got a good chance. But guess what? That might be a little too pass happy because the average number of carries in victories this weekend was 39. 39. 34 for Philly, 44 for Buffalo, 33 for Washington, 34 for Houston, 50 for Baltimore. So this whole, hey, we got to run it 30 times. Everybody in the playoffs, who won, ran it 30 times.
Right, but look, not just, the other side of the coin is also something to this too. Yeah, you want to, running the ball means you're controlling the game. Well, I think you got to a lot of those run totals because we had an awful lot of lopsided games. We did. Even
at
though
the end, but only really Baltimore and Pittsburgh was really. Washington was tight. Houston and the Chargers was very tight. Buffalo got crazy in the fourth quarter, but in the first half you had competitive football games. The point is just that you got to be able to run the ball in the playoffs. And Brock, here's the thing: is Brock Purdy elite?
Let me just ask you a quick question. Did you think for a millisecond that the Packers were going to beat the Eagles? Because even though that was one of the tighter on the scoreboard games, to me, it was one of the biggest separations of two teams of the day. You literally had a Packer getting hurt by the play, every play almost. The Eagles just came out and so thoroughly whooped that team's ass. I don't think the Packers got the worst beaten on the scoreboard this weekend, but they took the worst beaten by far of any NFL team this weekend.
Let's just say this. It was a 7-point game until, with 4 minutes left in the third quarter. It was 10-3 until 3:20 in the, when Goddard scored the touchdown to make it 16-3. That was when that game started to separate. But then after that, it was 16-10. So it was 16-10 in the fourth quarter.
Run, yeah.
Or
the Josh Jacobs run, pardon me.
The whole thing on Purdy, though, it's there's only so many franchise quarterbacks. So if you don't have one, should you throw your arms up in the air and be like, "Oh my God, we can't keep our very good quarterback because he's not a franchise quarterback." No. But then also, I don't know that it makes sense to be like, "Well, we've got Brock. We don't need to look for a franchise quarterback." I don't know that that makes sense either. So I kind of feel like if there's two modes that you should be in the pros. You either have a franchise quarterback or you don't, and you're in pursuit of a franchise quarterback. You show me anybody who's got a pretty good quarterback who's not really interested in looking for a great quarterback, and I'll show you somebody that I don't think is going to have a chance to win. I really think so. Like, should the Niners pay Brock? Yeah, they should. Should the Niners go forward with Brock? Yeah, they should. But should they continue to be aggressive in the quarterback market? Yes, they should. And I don't know that they're going to be. And what I mean by that is, even if you sign Brock, and I got to feel after that presser the other day with Shanahan and Lynch that they probably have some traded figures with Brock's agent. Otherwise, I doubt they would have been so on board with Brock if they just didn't know what he was asking for. But anyway, eventually they're going to get this contract done with Brock Purdy. And then it's about, okay, can you build around him? Can you build a good enough team around him to win? But I think he's not a top tier guy, but I think he's good enough to win a championship with. I think what Shanahan said last week is true, is that you can win with Brock Purdy. The same way I don't think that Jalen Hurts is a franchise quarterback, but I think you can win with him. I don't think that Jordan Love is a franchise quarterback. I think he's interesting, but you can win with him. There's that top tier of Allen and Jackson and Mahomes and Burrow. You can win with those guys. I won't put Herbert in that mix, by the way, just because he's tall and was a top pick. But that to me is the top tier. Then there's that second tier. And these are guys that are good enough you can win a championship with them, but you have to have a bunch of other things going on in addition to them. And I think that's in that group with Brock.
If we're being real honest,
10 other guys.
If we're being real honest, though, the top tier needs a whole bunch of things going on to win with them, too.
Nobody does it alone.
Astro Burrow, exactly. Nobody does it alone. And we want to convey this level of Superman-like ability on our chosen Avenger quarterbacks, and then everybody else is just a civilian. It really doesn't work like that. It doesn't. And I know that we have so drummed up the mythic great quarterback to be the tide that raises all boats in the harbor at all times. And look, when you have a coach and quarterback, that is, the trunk of the tree that all the growth comes from. It's very, very important, but it's not. That's it. That's all. That's it. That's all. I mean, why do you think Kansas City might be in a little bit of trouble against Houston? It's not because of CJ Stroud. You're talking about cornerbacks. You're talking about defense. That's you got to have the right situation. And more than anything else, I think Brock Purdy is in the right situation, and the 49ers are in the right situation to have found Brock Purdy. I mean, complain about his measurables all you want. Again, eventually, the complaining about the prospect has to end when there is a professional to evaluate. Here is how the NFL, not me, not Larry, not content creators, not ESPN, not NFL. No. Here's how the NFL evaluates Brock Purdy. Since he took over as a starter, he's fourth in the NFL in QBR. He's sixth in passing yards. He's first in yards per attempt, which is amazing for a dinker and dunker. He's tied for first in expected points added on dropbacks. He's seventh in passing touchdowns, and that includes this season where we all know the Niners basically went out of their way to not employ guys who could catch touchdowns. So Brock has performed as well, if not better, than some of the top shelf superhero quarterbacks that we say he doesn't even belong in the conversation with. So, if I'm walking into this arbitration case on Team Brock Purdy, I'm putting those numbers down in front of the 49ers first. And I'm just going to say, hey, you know what? Let's also do this exercise. If you want to say that Justin Herbert is the apple of everyone's eye, well, Herbert's been playing for 5 years and Brock's been playing for 2.5. Go look at their stats, their career stats. You basically have Justin Herbert's career total, and in half the games, you have Brock Purdy's career total. He is half of what Justin Herbert has done in half the time, which means he's kind of Justin Herbert. All of his numbers are identical to Justin Herbert's first 40-ish games in the league. Herbert's got 79 NFL starts. Purdy has 40. So we're right at that, twice as much. And Brock's numbers are literally almost divisible by 2 for everything that Herbert's done. He is on the I am just as good as Justin Herbert path statistically. Herbert's done a really nice job throwing fewer interceptions in his career. I don't know. Is this an NFL record? Has anyone ever thrown more interceptions in a postseason game as opposed to more interceptions than they threw in the entire regular season? Herbert threw
3 in the regular season, 4 yesterday. If you went with QBR as the stat, now that's the ESPN stat. The number 1 quarterback in the league QBR wise is Josh Allen. Number 2 is Lamar, and they're far and away number 1. They're 77.4, 77.3. Number 3 would be Joe Burrow. Number 4 would be Jaden Daniels. And to me, I don't even know all of the factors that go into QBR, but just looking at it, I do kind of like this grouping, except it has Mahomes at 8, and we all know Mahomes is fantastic. You have Purdy at 7, Goff at 6, you have Herbert at 11. But for the most part, the best quarterbacks are Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, and Jaden Daniels is having an amazing year. Those are 1 through 4. If you said who are some of the worst quarterbacks in pro football, Will Levis is 32, Gardner Minshew's 31, Cooper Rush is 30, Dak Prescott's 29, Caleb's 28, Daniel Jones is 27, Richardson's 26, Rodgers is 25. Actually, CJ Stroud is really low in this stat. He's 24. So, that's that's QBR. But, everybody's got their own stat, whatever. And I get it. I understand the people who are like, hey, Brock regressed and you don't want to pay him a ton. It's a cap sport. You want to pay him as little as possible because the less you pay him, the more you have to spread around to the rest of your roster, better chance you have to win. But this whole idea that, you must abort from Shanahan, you must abort from Purdy, you must somehow wind up with a different quarterback and it's like, sorry. If you don't like this head coach, if you don't like this quarterback, sorry. I don't know what to say.
Right. You're just gonna have
to live with it.
You got people who are just married to their agendas. That's a thing. It's agenda-driven coverage. It's not even agenda.
It's not even agenda-driven because it makes no sense. It's just like the people that are telling you that Brock Purdy isn't good are the same people telling you that Justin Herbert is good. But you got to remember this. Many of those same people were telling you that Trey Lance was good. So we know what they like in a quarterback. They like a guy who looks like he can do it. Like he can make all the throws. He looks the part. If you love Trey Lance, you are a classic example of you judge the book by the cover because he looked the way you wanted your franchise quarterback to look, except he couldn't play dead. So, and that's what people are falling, they fall in love with a Herbert. They fall in love with a Trevor Lawrence. That's why these guys all went so high. They go really high in the draft because people fall in love with them in the draft. They're on the NFL's on the verge of falling in love with Shedeur Sanders. He's another big athletic quarterback who's not good. but they're going to fall in love with him, and he's going to go in the top 5.
Well, the thing, he's a prospect, and they like, the direction this prospect's physical attributes point him in. But just because he's pointed in that direction doesn't mean he's going to get there. And guys with harder to find attributes, still play really good football in this league. They really do. And now, hold on. First of all, like and subscribe, everyone. Great to have you here this morning. Thanks for watching us. It's off-season wake up with Damon and Larry. Sergio Fernandez says, Damon, the problem with your argument is that the Niners have had some really stacked teams. The Chargers have been garbage for most of Justin Herbert's time. Well, look, defensively, I would agree with you there. But remember, just a couple of years ago, your Chargers were Austin Eckler, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen. What their tight end was Everett. They had some good players. They were not a destitute of talent level football team around a quarterback. They were good. The Chargers were good offensively. It was defense that, really let them down game after game after game after game after game.
Were the Niners stacked this year? Theoretically.
Hardly.
Right. Well, but I mean, theoretically, they were, according to the people that say they're stacked. They still had all these guys that they, these big name guys. But big name guys get old. Big name guys get old. I think more than anything, what I saw was that you can win. You can win if your quarterback takes care of the football and you play smart football and good defense and run the ball. That's what it's about. I mean, it's about making good decisions. Now, Brock Purdy didn't make good decisions this year. And that's why there's real regression, and that's why there's real concern. But why? And I would say the real reason is because he doesn't have an offensive line. They get to 2nd and goal from the 4. They can't run. They have to pass. They don't. I mean, you have a guy that in Jake Brendel that the offensive line coach keeps talking about as a Pro Bowl alternate, even though it was 3 years ago. And you have a running back who people talk about in unbelievable terms, despite the fact that he didn't play much this year. And it's like, you've got all these guys. It's like, suddenly it's like, are you getting it done or not? You're one of 5 teams in the sport that carries a fullback. Your fullback made the Pro Bowl, and you can't run in the low red zone. And that's with a Pro Bowl alternate center. And you have Christian McCaffrey, and you can't run inside the 5.
Wait,
and you
Jake
didn't
Brendel
run all
is
year.
Pro Bowl alternate center?
Yeah, 2 years ago.
Oh, 2 years ago. This year. I was like, what?
But he keeps talking about it like it was recent, but it was actually 2 or 3 years ago. And Brendel was the lowest rated center in football. My point is just that I can't even remember the last time the 49ers won a game and finished it on offense. Even when they're beating teams, they can't run when everybody knows they need to run in the 4th quarter to run you off the field. They can never run. They could never run in that situation. They always they run into the line, they get their running backs crushed, and then they punt and lean on their D. And if their D stands up, they win. And if their D doesn't stand up, they lose. And their D didn't stand up a lot this year, and they lost. But I mean, they can't finish anybody on offense because their offensive line is garbage, and they don't have power backs that can run inside the 5. So the number one thing they've got to do, yes, they need to improve their D line. Yes, they need to improve their linebacking core. They need to have a bunch of needs on defense and special teams. But you sure as hell better invest in a powerhouse interior offensive lineman, and you sure as hell better invest in a 220-pound running back that can take it up in there. Because if you go into next year and you get onto the 5-yard line and you can't run, or it's constant everything's on Brock because you can't run at all, then you're going to lose again. And we're going to be thinking up excuses of why you lost, but that will be the reason you lost. So to me, it's like any rebuild of the Niners, especially after watching this weekend, better include some serious, big boy interior offensive linemen and a big back. And to me, look at the backs. Barkley's in Philly. James Cook had a great weekend in Buffalo. Washington's got Eckler and Robinson. Houston's got Mixon. Baltimore's got Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry, who's just the baddest son of a bitch out there running a football still.
Gibbs is in Detroit. He's a monster. He didn't play this weekend. Pacheco's in Kansas City. You gotta be able to run the ball, man. You have to be able to run the ball. And I just felt like the 49ers at times just like they couldn't run. They didn't even try to run. They got so bad at running the ball that they didn't even try to run the ball.
To control games, to control a football game, you have to be able to run the ball. And that's why it didn't feel like the Niners controlled very many games. Just a year ago, on the way to the Super Bowl in Las Vegas, man, they controlled their entire season. The only time it really felt their season got out of control were the 2 playoff games on the way to the Super Bowl. Like, they kicked ass because of Christian McCaffrey. And I think that the 49ers are looking at, their next year, and you can call this wishful thinking if you want, or you can say, well, it's the time off needed to rest. And McCaffrey's already saying, an off season from now, my Achilles should be better. They're going to get Christian McCaffrey back. Not last year's, hopefully, Christian McCaffrey, but 2 years ago, Christian McCaffrey. That's what they're hoping.
He didn't run that well this year.
You got to have, Jordan Mason, and you got to have Isaac Guerendo. And I would have really liked to have seen Abinaconda to see if he could have helped you out or not, but you didn't even bother taking a look at him. Patrick Taylor, by the time you got to him, he gave you a 100-yard day. What does that mean for his future? I don't know. But,
McCaffrey only averaged 4 yards a carry. His longest, he didn't even have a 20-yard run the entire year. He had one 19-yard run. He played 4 games. He had 50 carries. He averaged 4 yards a carry. He averaged 50 yards a game.
Hey, outside of a handful of Jordan Mason runs and 1 or 2 Guerendo runs, it was a bad year for explosive running plays out of the 49ers offense. So
Mason averaged 5.2 a carry. I mean, just behind the same crappy line, Mason averaged 5.2 a carry. So, and Patrick Taylor went in short, small doses, 4.7 a carry. I'm just saying it doesn't matter who you got. You need more running backs, because when you run out of running backs, you run out of ability to win, because it's all based on your running back. I mean, the Lions lost David Montgomery. They're still rolling. Why? Because they've got Jahmyr Gibbs. But if they didn't have Jahmyr Gibbs, if they just had one running back, and David Montgomery, when he was in Chicago, was like the bell cow back. And there's some teams that just have one running back that's really good. Well, then your season's over. Detroit is done without Jahmyr Gibbs. But guess what? They had 2. So now they're not only not done, they may go to the Super Bowl. And that would be my point with the 49ers. It's like, go load up. It's an unbelievable running back draft. Load up. Well, get rid of Juice. You don't need Juice. Stop using a running back spot on Juice. He's overpaid and he sucks. Get rid of Juice and go with 5 legitimate running backs, and use a lineman or a D lineman or Guerendo or Taylor as your fullback, because you don't even use the fullback anyway.
I think that you can really thrive with a B- running back, and so did the entire NFL until, I don't know if it was the year ago Christian McCaffrey season, or this Barkley season, or the Derrick Henry season that we're watching right now. I'll go to war with an A+ offensive line and a B- running back every day over an A+ running back and a B- offensive line. To me, the reason why ain't no big deal for the Lions to get through, their David Montgomery injury. It's of course it's Jahmyr Gibbs playing really well, but it's also Decker and Glasnow and Ragnow and Sewell and Zeitler, and they got this offensive line that is reminiscent of the Hogs. I mean, they just kick so much ass up front. A B- running back is a B+ in their offense, just because they're going to get an actual hole to run through. So I hear you. Stack running backs. How about fuck stacking running backs and get a right tackle who's no joke? That's what I'd like to see. Get a center who is a Clubber Lang style of road clearer for your running game right up the middle. That's what the 49ers need. I'll be happy to go back right to whatever Christian McCaffrey's got left, Mason, Guerendo, and whatever new guy shows up. I'll take those. I'll take the 3 known running backs plus running back X with an upgraded line over the running back from Boise State, and they didn't do enough offensively to address their line right now.
I mean, Ashton Gianti's a special back. There's no question. But it's a great draft for backs, and you don't have to have Ashton Gianti. No, you got to improve your line. There's no question about it. I mean, to me, what I saw this weekend was not like, I don't know what you got out of this weekend, but what I got out of this weekend was that Brock Purdy's good enough. Now, other people might have gotten out of this weekend that Brock Purdy's not good enough. I know there are people that are very concerned about, oh, if you pay Brock Purdy $55 million, how's he ever going to beat a Jaden Daniels on a rookie contract? Well, okay, but I mean that's the advantage that rookies have, is that the rookies on the rookie scale deal for the first 4 years.
Right.
So that's advantage. That's advantage any rookie. Yeah.
The faster your quarterback sees the matrix, the better it is. We all agree on that. That's duh.
But look at the difference. Look at the difference. I mean, if you put Brock Purdy in, let's say, Philadelphia's situation, big, physical, strong offensive line, really good running back, good tight end, couple good receivers, and a top-tier defense.
A receiver with a good book.
and then just go back there and hand it off, make a few throws of every game, be smart, take care of the football, dial it way down. I mean, dial it way, way down. Like right now, this year, Brock Purdy was out there spinning plates on, all fingers. It's like, I got no line. I got nobody's open. None of my receivers are separating. We can't run the ball. And it's all on me. And I'm just running around trying to make it all happen. And he made a number of great plays and then got sped up in a couple games. Overall, his overall play started to regress. Now back things up this year. Go reload. Get a much better line. Invest in the line. Invest in the weapons. Ask Brock to just hand it off, run the ball, play action pass, get him up back under center, fewer shotgun, make it all happen, run for your life, and more, just have him do less. Don't have him shoulder the entire load of everything. Treat him the way that the Eagles treat Hurts and some of these teams treat their quarterback. Run the hell out of the ball and make him throw, half dozen throws, a half he's got to make, but don't drop back all day and every day. Shanahan, I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, I got a lot of complaints with Kyle Shanahan this year and the way he called plays and the way he ran his offense. If you look at the game log, look at the totals for Brock Purdy's throwing in these games. He's throwing a shit ton. He threw 35 times, 40 times, 31 times, 36 times, 31 times, 35 times, 30 times, 36 times, 29 times. I mean, they threw the ball a lot for a team that didn't have Ayuk for much of the year. Debo regressed. Pearsall didn't come of age. You've got this handful of backs, including McCaffrey, and then you didn't have him, of course, but you also had Mason, and you had Mitchell, and you have Debo, and you just stopped running the ball. I mean, you got away from the run.
Let me ask you this:
you weren't as balanced.
I mean, by me asking it, it's almost a trick question, but do you feel that this year they asked Brock to throw the ball considerably more than they asked him to do it last year?
I don't know, but I know that his equation is not as good because Ayuk regressed dramatically and then got hurt. Debo regressed dramatically, and CMC played only a handful of games.
So he only threw the ball 11 more times this season as opposed to the year before. Now, he missed a couple of games too. But, it's perception and reality. And it's too bad that they had to ask Brock to throw it 11 more times because really, like Larry, you just said, with the problems that they had injury-wise across their, offensive line, plus the receiver core, plus their running backs room, they should have asked Brock to do even less. But that's just not how the year played out. I think he's a good. Here's the thing. Like, at the end of the day, I think he's a good quarterback. Is he flawless? Is he perfect? The answer is no, but flawless and perfect, as you saw yesterday, it's on full display. It really doesn't exist. There really is not one of them that is without sin. Patrick Mahomes is the closest to, God's chosen quarterbacking son as this league has to offer right now. Earlier in the chat, oh, sorry, hold on. The chat moved a little bit. I was over the comment that I wanted to bring up, but it was a guy just said, hey, even with all that struggling yesterday, I'd still take Justin Herbert over Brock Purdy. Well, so would a lot of NFL GMs too. And if really left to their own devices with that choice to make, John Lynch, I wonder what John Lynch would really say. You could trade Brock Purdy for Justin Herbert right now. Would you? They might. They might, because falling in love with the bigger, faster, stronger prospect is always a smart thing to do in football because it's such a violent sport. But either way,
once again, though, you're talking to a fan. You're talking to a fan base that saw Joe Montana beat Dan Marino. So no, the bigger, stronger guy with the better arm doesn't always win. If the bigger, stronger guy won, then Trey Lance would be the quarterback because he was bigger and stronger. It's not as simple as that. You got to be able to play the position. You got to be able to process. You got to be able to make quick decisions. You got to be accurate with the ball.
I can't stand the referendum that everyone wants to have over every quarterback based on one game. And I don't care if it's an early season game, a mid-season game, a late season game that feels like it's got more weight on it, or a playoff game. To use just 4 quarters of football to make a permanent evaluation on anyone is ridiculous. You got to look at a bigger picture. And again, when you look at Brock Purdy's bigger picture, and there is no bigger picture from the minute you started till the last game you played this year. That's about as big of a picture as you can get. Again, 4th in the NFL in QBR, 6th in passing yards, 1st in yards per attempt, 1st in expected points added per drop pack, 7th in passing touchdowns. Like, these are all really good returns. Those are all great returns. And if you consider your return on investment, there was an argument to be made that there was no greater bang for the buck in the NFL over the last 3 years than Brock Purdy. Yet so many Niners fans just wanted to underappreciate him and undervalue him because they didn't like the way he whatevered. Okay. That's your personal choice, I guess. The last thing that I think, anyone can really take about, measuring Herbert, and let's look at Herbert's contract. In 2023, Herbert signed a 5-year, $62.5 million extension, and it made Herbert the highest paid quarterback in the game per annual average value. And that's 2 years ago. So Brock's contract, let's just say it's 5 years, $280. Guess what? You're going to be able to win around that.
Well, not if they don't draft better. They're going to have to draft better. That's the thing. They haven't drafted all that well.
That was part of the winning formula in every year that football's ever been played, right? So, of course, they got to draft well. They're going to be able to pay a good team around him. The cap is going to go up, I guarantee you, $25, $30 million again this year. Last year, I think, was the biggest year-over-year cap jump ever. Watch this one be as big, if not bigger, than the last one. The NFL is literally stacking and packing stadiums and eyeballs in every direction, and they're not about to say, hey, let's have some cost cutting on the amount of money we're paying football teams. It's always going to go up. So I just think it's going to be a lot more feasible than the biggest worry warts about paying Brock means you can't afford a good football team anymore. I just stick around and find out. Watch how little concerned you really need to be about that.
There is a interesting story out here. Let's see here. Share
What's breaking, Larry, something?
Coach Yak's Twitter says ESPN's Nick Wagner on the 49er defensive coordinator search. He says, while Robert Saleh and Jeff Ulbrich are considered top candidates, another name worth keeping a close eye on is former Saints coach Dennis Allen. Allen has extensive experience working 8 years as a defensive coordinator in Denver and New Orleans, almost 6 seasons as a head coach with the Saints and Raiders, and another year with the Saints as senior defensive assistant. So throw another name into the mix there. If they don't get Saleh, who's interviewing with Jacksonville and somebody else this week, Raiders. I think Tuesday and Wednesday, something like that, or Wednesday and Thursday, Saleh will interview for Jacksonville and the Raiders. But if they don't get Saleh, they may go Dennis Allen. They may go Jeff Ulbrich. I'm okay with any of these guys, to be completely honest. They need a proven defensive coordinator. These guys have all been, for at least a short amount of time, head coaches and have a lot more experience than Nick Sorensen. So
I
think it's an upgrade.
Dennis Allen just doesn't sound like a great idea to me. Even when he was just
a defensive coordinator.
Yeah, great. I just think he's doesn't inspire a lot. That to me feels uninspired. But okay, whatever. It's I'll just cover the team no matter what they do. I'm not going to try to, speak what I want into the only truth of existence. I'm going to cover what happens, not what I want to happen. But I don't want Dennis Allen based on just all the backdoor chatter that I've heard about just him and his coach and just how he's kind of just an awkward dude. Nah.
I like him. I like him. I mean, you got to remember this. I mean, there's some of these guys that get these head coaching jobs who don't really, succeed in them. Doesn't mean that they're not great defensive coaches. I mean, Spags was a failed defensive coordinator or failed head coach, and he's a really good defensive coordinator. So there's Ray Rhodes was a failed head coach, but he was a great defensive coordinator. Richie Pettibone was a failed head coach. He was a great defensive coordinator. Dave Wannstedt was a failed head coach. He was a really good defensive coordinator. Dave Campo. I mean, Butch Davis. There's a bunch of guys that I can think of.
Buddy Ryan, right?
Buddy Ryan was a much better defensive coordinator. So there are a bunch of guys like this. It seems like on the defensive side as well. I mean, Vic Fangio. Vic Fangio was a bad head coach in Denver, and yet they got the number one defense in Philadelphia with
the Raiders.
Many of the same guys that Sean Desai had last year, and they were a circus.
I heard that the Raiders had put in a request to talk to Vic Fangio about their head coaching opening. By the way, some of these NFL teams and their head coaching searches are like comically too grand. Like if the Chicago Bears have literally interviewed every single coach in America for their head coaching opening. It's embarrassing. It's there's a difference between kicking a lot of cans and doing your due diligence, and there's also spraying it everywhere because you don't know what you're aiming at. And I think that there's an awful lot of teams, the Bears, the Raiders, who are, the Jets, who are constantly unaware of what they should even be aiming at. So they think that a volume of interviews is supposed to be impressive in some way. It's not. To me, it shows how it doesn't show how much you're considering everything on the table as much as it is you don't even really know how to consider what you're considering.
I mean, the Raiders are so lost. They just fired Tom Telesco. Telesco, I think, is one of the good young GMs in the game, and they just fired him after.
He just drafted the best rookie tight end that the NFL's ever seen in a year where it didn't make a lot of sense to make that pick, but they made it anyway. Again, the Raiders don't know what they're doing ever. And to let Antonio Pierce go the minute after he did his postseason press conference or whatever that is, and then to say we're keeping Tom Telesco, and then 48 hours after that, Telesco's gone too. I mean, it's the emptiest white what's amazing, and I really don't like to make fun of the way anybody looks. I really don't. Not even Mark Davis. But the fact that he cannot settle on a singular decision about his football team, who should be running it, who should be coaching it, who should be quarterbacking it, but he just looks at that haircut and thinks, no notes. It's just nothing to improve. I'm going to rock this haircut for 45 years. The fact that the only idea he's ever been married to is that haircut just shows you what you're dealing with. It really does. Sometimes you got to use the data points that are coming back to you, whether you want to use them or not. And I just look at, okay, so the guy who can't make up his mind on anything has made up his mind on that. Okay, that's the Raiders. That's Mark Davis.
I mean, all you got to know about Mark Davis is when the dad was alive, did the dad in any way promote the son?
Oh, he didn't groom him at all. There was never a succession plan of Mark Davis taking over for Al.
Did Al celebrate the son and put him in incredible roles with the franchise? No. I mean, it all, he went to this role after Al, left the planet and lost all control. I mean, it's like, no, if he really, something tells me, because I mean, it wasn't like Mark Davis is just got out of college. Mark Davis has been an adult for many, many of the years that Al Davis was still alive running the team. Well, where was Mark's killer, unbelievable role back then? He didn't have any role. He was just the loser son of a rich guy. So, I mean, it's just, the fact that he's now takes his bad haircut and he's like, hey, I'm the guy. It's like, you know what? You weren't, how sad is that? It's like, you're the guy, but your dad, when he was alive, you were nowhere close to being anything. And now you're the guy. I mean, it's kind of shows that his dad knew his son was an absolute loser.
So
and he just happened to leave him all the cash.
I can prove that.
The team.
I can prove that. And by the way, I talked a lot of shit over 20 years as a radio host in this town, or 18, whatever my run was. There are very few times where like someone from a team would like reach out saying like, hey, that, can you ask Damon to reel that shit in? The only time the Raiders ever really had a problem with anything I've said, so that this touched a nerve of Mark Davis. The only time I ever heard from the Raiders saying like, "Hey man, that's just fucking dirty pool," was when I said, talking about the grooming of Mark Davis to take over and how it was never Al's plan, was I said this, and this is going to hurt. This is going to hurt. I understand why this hurt, because it's the truth. There has never been a son of a millionaire whose father had great expectations for that son, and that son goes to Chico State. Okay, I'm sorry. Like, to get into Chico State, you need a joint and a number 2 pencil.
Oh God! Now we're gonna start. Come on, dude. I'm not.
Look, I would love to go to. I heard
Cal State. By the way, Cal State. I mean, it's just idiots. Cal State system is the second best system in the country.
It's great. So. It's great. But let's not pretend SUNY schools are NYU. You know what I mean? Like it's a SUNY school. Chico State is a fine college in many ways. It's also got a reputation for being a massive slacker, party, get stoned, have fun college. That has that reputation, and it's well earned. I respect it. I really do. But again, you're a multi-millionaire. You're Al Davis. You can go out of your way to move and open doors to get your son into a prestige college. Yet you're still cool with him just going off to Chico. That means you don't have much of an expectation for that kid. It really does. It really does. And again, so look at it this way. Even the Raiders were like, ow, that hurt. So Mark must have been listening that day and didn't like that. So I think there's truth to it too.
I'm not going to rip Chico State. Not going to rip Chico State, and I got great respect for all the people who went to Chico State. It's a good school. As I said, the California state system is the second best state system in the country.
Right, but there's also this here, Eric. Thank you very much. Chico State has been party school forever. Thank you very fucking much. Come on. It's don't get politically correct about your Chico State. Come on.
It's not. It's no longer the party school that it used to be. As somebody who went to Chico many weekends to party, I can tell you
this guy
did earn that reputation in the 60s and 70s.
Chico State's where you go for white lines on a Saturday night. Sentinel Football Channel. All right, there you. I mean, come on. Let's not pretend. Here's the thing. Let's not pretend. My whole point is let's not pretend. We're going to some Ivy League school.
There's nothing wrong with Chico State.
There's nothing wrong with Chico State unless your daddy's a multi-millionaire and can't get you into a better. I mean, that's Chico State is nobody's safety school, Larry, or it's everybody's safety school. It's nobody. Nobody grows up in high school going, one day I hope to get into Chico State.
No, that's not true, dude. Some people do dream to go to Chico State. I didn't, but some people do.
Okay, all right.
I mean, it's so different than SF State. It's the same school. SF State, Chico State, San Diego State, San Jose State, Sac State. Come on. Let's not get into drive-bys on colleges. You have anything else you want to, besides ripping Chico State? You got anything else you want to throw out?
No, that really wasn't ripping Chico State as much as I was ripping Mark Davis, but I think we all know. Anyways,
Mike 824 says happy belated. What's that?
Oh, yeah. Well, happy belated for sure. I was also going to say we have not shown everyone the pure beauty of our good friends at Sam's Chowder House, but we'll do that after we do the.
We'll do that after that. We'll hit the supers here. Mike 824 says happy belated, Larry. Thank you, Mike. David E says, who had a stronger arm, Purdy or Montana? Just focusing on arm strength here. Probably Joe. Mason Davis, have you looked at Kyle Manangi? Could be our Monty. Yes. It's so funny that you asked me about this kid. This is the Rutgers running back. And I was just looking at him literally last night. Unbelievably. And I love this kid. He is fantastic. His name's Kyle Manangai, and he's a 5'9", 210-pound senior from Roseland, New Jersey, who went to Don Bosco Prep and now is at Rutgers. And he's just strong as hell. I mean, there's contact balance, and then there's contact balance. This guy's got crazy contact balance. I mean, this is the kind of guy that could be running down the street, get hit by a car, and land on his feet and keep running. I mean, he is just. I could not believe when I watched the highlights of this Rutgers running back how unbelievably balanced this guy is. This guy is 5'9", between 210 and 215, really power packed, but he gets knocked this way, he just moves this way and keeps running. He gets knocked that way, he moves that way and keeps running. He's just I've never seen anybody with the contact balance like Kyle Manangai.
Well, look,
man, from Rutgers, and I don't know what round he's going to go in. I don't know what he's going to run, but he's got this ability to jump cut and then go forward with such power that he just carries dudes with him. And I saw him get knocked to the left and he just keeps running. I mean, it's like he's really an amazing back. I love him a lot. I would love to see the Niners get him.
Just because I'm a Big Ten honk, and I just looked up the numbers to check this out. And you know why I really like Brock Purdy? Because Brock Purdy was the kind of guy at Iowa State who was not surrounded by All-Americans at every position, and he elevated the entire team. Kyle Manangai, I want to say. Manangai. He's a football Manangai. When you are the sole focus of the Big Ten's defensive coordinator concerns, because name Rutgers quarterback, no one can. This was the focus. And he went for 1,200 yards in back-to-back Big Ten seasons when he was the only guy on Rutgers you needed to stop. So that's impressive to me. When you stand out in a major conference on an inferior team, not surrounded by true blue chip talent all around you, like that to me is a guy worthy of investment in. So he is impressive. I'll give you that. The other bit of housekeeping news, Larry, is that the 49ers completed an interview with Lions assistant special teams coach Jet Modkins for the team's vacant special teams coordinator position. This is from Cobra, Matt Mayoko. Modkins currently works under Dave Phipp, who is considered one of the best in the business. Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
His dad, Curtis Modkins, used to coach for the Niners. So they, I'm not saying they're satisfying the Rooney Rule, but that is part of the the deals. They have to interview a certain number of minority candidates. I don't know enough about Modkins as a special teams, his special teams career to say one way or another. But yeah, they're going to get that. And some people are saying maybe it's Sorensen, but maybe it's not. Maybe they're going to go outside. Ray Rogers says, "What if this year is Brock's floor?" I mean, how could it? First of all, it was him. So I mean, it's like, I mean, it was something on his. It was somewhere on his spectrum, right? That it was his performance this year. So you're saying you're hoping that he can't get worse than how he played this year.
Yeah, I mean, if this is the guy's floor, you're dealing with a pretty good quarterback, right?
They won 6 games. They won 6 games. It wasn't a great year. He didn't play particularly well, but you know what? I do think he's a good quarterback. I just don't think he's a franchise quarterback. I don't think he's a star quarterback. So I would go with him, but then I would keep looking for a franchise quarterback. Just because.
What I think is going to happen, Larry, is they're going to end up giving him an incredibly impressive contract with all sorts of we can get out of it escape hatches built into it.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of
a lot of upfront money. They can get out after year 2. They can get out after year 3. If it's a 5-year deal, I think there's 2 different out clauses in it. And again, I think they're going to get a more reasonable deal than everyone else fears.
Well, I don't even think that people. Part of it is that people are fear a big deal because it will hurt them on the cap. There's a lot of people out there that just don't want to see the 49ers sign up Brock Purdy, period. And they're just like, you know what? He's not good enough because he had a down year this year. But you know what? It's like you wouldn't drive your car nearly as well cross country if we took off 3 of the tires. I mean, that's basically what happened to him this year. Fuji Simeon says, Larry, you got money on the Bruce Mahoney game. Come on, bro. I don't bet on high school sports. But go Cats, get them Cats, go get them Cats. I feel confident. Fuji Simeon says, Larry, I went to San Francisco State for grad school. I think I turned out all right for a Reardon guy. Okay, there you go. Yeah, seriously. SF State, these are all good schools. I mean, I understand in a state that has the UC system, it's easy to take drive-bys on SF State. But the reality is that if you look at the way the state systems are graded out, UC's number 1, Illinois state system number 2, Cal State system number 3. So it's actually, as far as state systems go, it's pretty high.
That's great.
Pretty and highly ranked.
Party school. 2 things can be true.
No, it's not. Fuji Simeon, it is not. Go up there and see. I mean, you'll be very disappointed if you go up there looking for a big time rager. It's not like it used to be. Just trust me when I say that.
Were you there recently? Were you there recently? Did you party last?
I didn't party recently because I am 55. But yeah, I do know people that have gone there, and like lots and lots of things have changed in Chico. It's not nearly. It had a reputation.
Yeah,
as being a premier party school, but it's totally changed. It's like San Diego State is a major party school, but I mean it's these things all evolve. Fuji Simeon says even a nervous wreck Zane Gonzalez made his kicks. Yeah, that was the other thing watching that this weekend, was watching Zane Gonzalez going, you know what, the Niners could have been just totally fine with Zane Gonzalez. They could have kept their 3rd round pick, used it on an actual football player, and just gone with Zane Gonzalez and been no worse for wear. No, they got to go for the 3rd round kicker, invest high picks and a kicker, add more pressure to an already highly pressured situation, and have it blow up in your face. Now, I mean, if you bring Jake Moody back and you don't have him competing absolutely for his job, the fans are going to riot. Fans are absolutely going to riot. And if he misses one kick, the players are going to riot. G-Code Travels Vlog POV, is drafting a special talent in Tyler Warren the right choice over need? Feels like Vernon Davis 2.0, a freak of nature. The LeBron Jameses of tight ends.
Yeah, how about this? I wouldn't say that if you drafted Tyler Warren, it's not also addressing a need. It's not just a want. I think I know that they need George Kittle's eventual replacement, and they need a second tight end. So
here's the thing. Stop worrying about the position and start being more like Detroit. Detroit looks at the draft and says, where are the special players? Let's go get some. The Niners look at the draft and go, we need a right tackle. We need a center in the second round. We need a defensive end that only is 270 plus. Be more flexible. Look for great players and then add them to your situation. Tyler Warren is a great player. Now, I don't want to take him at 11 because it's maybe a little early for tight end.
Yeah.
But if I could trade from 11 down to 18 or something like that, or 22, and I would start my draft with Tyler Warren. He's 260 pounds. He's a wildcat quarterback at times. He's a monster blocker. He's a terrific receiver. He's a blue chipper. The same way the Lions found Sam Laporta, somebody's going to find Tyler Warren. He's an absolute stud player. Start finding great college football players and draft them instead of looking to fill your list of needs. Joe Sullivan says, Larry, I graduated in 02. It's a party school. All right, there you go. Joe Sullivan.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate the honesty. Thank you. Yeah. An alumni has spoken. A recent alumni has spoken.
I went to Sac State. We partied our asses off there too. And yet it's not a party school. So
right. Well, I went to Indiana University, which is a fine place to go get an education, and will throw more hot chicks at you than you've ever seen in your life. And we're a party school, and we kick much ass. So we're all things. Be all things is a university.
Except you got to live in Indiana. Fuji Simeon, college football playoff format needs to change. Oh, Indiana sucks. College football playoff format needs to change. Conference champions should not get automatic first round bye. Give it to the highest ranked schools. I've been to Indiana.
You've never been to Bloomington.
I've been to Indiana, though.
You've never been to Bloomington.
Anthony, like Scorpion. Larry Damon, it's my father-in-law's Butch's birthday today. Happy birthday, Butch.
Happy birthday, Butch, like Scorpion.
Fuji Simeon. By the way, Larry, SF State colors are the same as Reardon.
There you go. Purple and gold.
Awesome. Yeah, there you go. So you don't have to trade out any of your stuff. Ed Tuazon says, is Jalen Daniels the real deal, or is it another C.J. Stroud and Brock Purdy situation, rookie with limited tape? First of all, I don't agree that C.J. Stroud and Brock Purdy aren't good. But yes, Jaden Daniels, not is it Jaden, right? Jaden.
Yeah, Jaden Daniels.
Jaden Daniels is the real deal.
He's a very, very talented young man, but there will be no progress as a linear straight line. Like, he will have a sophomore season where he will take a step back, because that's just how learning this league works. You learn about the league learns about you. They get a book on you, you adjust. And that's, progress is not just completely a upward pointing slope. He will take steps backwards. Sometimes that step backwards happens after year 3. This is what Brock just went through this year. So when you know that you got a guy who's dedicated to his craft, that has the respect of his teammates, that processes what he sees, that has command of the offense, that is likable, that is a leader, you want to stick around with those guys. Now, Jaden Daniels, again, he's one of those physical specimens that Brock Purdy will never be. But I like both guys. I think either way, you got a really good quarterback.
I mean, Jaden Daniels is doing it. There's no Ben Sinnott. They've had a bunch of injuries. It's not like it's not like they haven't had injuries. They've had a bunch of injuries. So, I mean, he's out there doing it. He's got a better cast than the cast he played with yesterday. But yeah. By the way, I'm just looking at this. So is it true that every team that won this weekend won the turnover battle? I guess the Baltimore-Pittsburgh game, there were no turnovers.
No turnovers. Yeah, no turnovers in that game
at all. But Philly won. They won the turnover battle. Tampa won, or Washington won. They won the turnover battle. Houston won. They won the turnover battle. Buffalo won, and there were no turnovers. But they totally dominated the time of possession. My God, 42 minutes to 18 minutes. I mean, they just totally played keep away in that game from the Denver Broncos. All right, that's going to do it for us. Quick show, good show. Hope everybody enjoyed it. Thanks to all of the supers. Thanks to Damon. Thanks to all of you guys.
Hold on, Larry.
Damon?
We still have not rolled the footage, and here she is. Look at her.
Oh, I was just about to roll it.
There we go. Sorry. We both did it. There she is. The Mecca. Make yourself a pilgrimage to Sam's. Look at her. Look at her. Look at that lobster roll. Star of the show. Fantastic. Thanks so much to Sam's Chatterhouse for sponsoring us. Thank you very much. And you will be thrilled when you get down there. Get down there on a bright, sunny day like that day, and it's the ultimate kiss between land and sea that the great state of California really has to offer. Get yourself to Sam's Chatterhouse, and you will be very, very happy. Larry, I buried the personal football lead of this weekend. My 5-year-old, Jack, played his first ever flag football. He is signed up for the next level flag football. He's got his first jersey with his name on the back of it. He's rocking number 15. Someone's like, how do you give him Patrick Mahomes' number? And I just said, look, around these parts, that's Juwan Jennings' number, okay? So Jack is rocking.
What's his team?
The Bears. He's a Bear.
Gotcha. We did college teams out here for our next level flag. But yeah, next level, my kid plays that or played that. And
yeah, well, they're all college teams too. They're all college teams too. They're the Bears, the Gators, the Longhorns, the Trojans, and they're all, corresponding college colors. So they looked all great out there, but it was the first, official father watching his kid play a little football. And oh man, did I enjoy it. It was such a great day. Jack really liked it too. Really, he's got his dad's speed. Jack is not going to do very well in flag football. Jack is going to be on the line of scrimmage. He doesn't have the speed to thrive off the line of scrimmage, just like dad. So,
well, you never know, man. I'll say this: I coach all my boys in Little League, and they were all, totally average speed, like really not that fast, like not out of shape. You got those kids that are just really, they can't run at all, but not, not burners, like just middle of the road speed all throughout Little League. And then Kev got to high school, started doing some lifting with his legs and started running really well. And he played cornerback and receiver. And then my second boy, he became super fast. And now my third guy's playing receiver and corner too. So I just think it's sometimes when they get, when they're little, you don't know how fast they're going to be.
We don't know. We don't know
until they start working out and lifting. And all of a sudden you look up and you're like, whoa, my kid's actually pretty damn fast. One more super here from Fuji Simeon. Please, SH Irish beat the SI Stray Cats. Is that tonight?
Oh,
is that tonight? Or I think it might be tomorrow. I think it's on the 14th. Yeah, when you have to ask nicely for high school kids to beat the Wildcats, it's not good. That's not good. Go Cats, get them Cats, go get them Cats. Thanks to Sam's Chowderhouse. Thanks to all of you guys. Have a great rest of your Monday. What do you got planned the rest of your Monday, Damon?
Let's see. What do we got? We got a little show that we're doing at 11. We're going to talk about what happened to the 49ers in terms of, what happened over the weekend. We're going to kind of go over some of the things that we've gone over on this show. We're going to take a look at what is the week ahead for the Warriors. They're on a road trip right now. They've got a gots to have it game in Toronto. The Raptors have only won 8 games all season. So if you're going to do something on this road trip to pick up another win, you'd think it'd have to be tonight. And I'm going to tell everyone about the best movie I have seen in a really, really long time. And highly recommend it to everyone. But if you want to figure out what that is, you're just going to have to tune into that 11 o'clock show. That's called.
You're not going to tell us what movie it is.
That's called a tease, Larry. That's a tease in the radio business, which I used to be in.
You can join me today at 11:30. I will stop by with Greg Papa and Greg Silver, and I'm sure talk about the weekend that was in the two Gregs. And then at 6:00, I'm back with you for another edition of Niners Nightly, and we'll take phone calls and we'll talk a little bit about the 49ers, and we'll talk a little bit about the weekend and what we learned from the playoff teams about, a lot of similar to what we talked about here. I'm going to get into some of the things that I learned this weekend that I think impact the 49ers rebuild. So we'll hit on that tonight at 6:00. And then Kev and I are going to go. Kev and I have not done a show together in a long time. But we're going to do a call-in show, we think, tonight after Sam Darnold and the Vikings, I think, are going to beat the Rams. So that's coming up later on today, and that's what we got going. Beautiful day. Last couple of days felt like almost like springtime here. I can't wait. I'm watching the Justin Verlander press conference right now, and it's just looking so tired. I mean, it's just like, something about the old people interviewing an old pitcher about, I don't know. It's the baseball media has gotten really old. The sport has gotten really old. The Giants just signed a 42-year-old guy who's played 19 years in the bigs, and watching old people interview an old pitcher, man, nothing screams out, let's buy some tickets.
Having said all that, I like the signing. I do. I think
I don't dislike the signing, but it's not. Let's just say this. I don't mind the signing, but why? If you're not going to go sign Polar Bear or a big time bat, then what the fuck are you doing? Why in the world would you go after old Justin Verlander if you're not going to get some offensive piece? Like if a Ryan Leong is at this press conference, if a Polar Bear, if you're on the verge of getting a big time 3, 4, 5 bat, all right, then guess what? Verlander helps you get through the season and this and that. But if you're not, and you're just going to go with Wilmer Flores and Lamont Wade, then I hate Justin Verlander in that situation. Propping up
what channel
Wade and Flores.
I just went to 6-9. I just went to, was it MLB Network?
Yeah, it's on MLB Network.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's listed as the MLB's 20 greatest games of 1988, but it's MLB Network Giants news conference. Justin Verlander.
I guess MSNBC, CNBC, whatever. He's not even there. Justin Verlander is on a remote location talking over a Zoom meeting.
Yeah. It's a Zoom news conference.
This is all the Giants could do to introduce future Hall of Famer Justin Verlander. Let's do it on a Zoom with Ryan Leong.
Well, no, this is how the conversation goes. Hey, Justin, you want to fly into San Francisco? No.
Who's this guy sitting in a restaurant?
No, that's probably his house. He's got a little wainscoting, or he's got a little.
It looks like he's sitting in front of a fast food menu, or I guess it's a projection TV screen drop down. I don't know, but
dude, some of these guys really need to work on their backgrounds.
Seriously,
Jeez.
Including Verlander.
Verlander at least has a clear camera.
Hotel room. By the way, I heard that the Verlander Upton clan is looking for accommodations in Pacific Heights, Larry. As
wrong there.
Imagine, I could just see Kate Upton falling in love with Union Street. It's a lovely ladies' day street in all of San Francisco. She can't go down to Chestnut; she'll get hit on ferociously. She's going to have to keep it up on Union.
What does a mansion in the Pacific Heights go for these days?
Oh, it's you better be making Verlander money. No, I would say that Pacific Heights is a $12 to $15 million starting price.
So his entire deal could go to housing.
Oh yeah.
He bought a place for cash.
Well, I'm sure they're gonna lease it for a year or something. He's not gonna buy.
Right. Well, he should though. I mean, that would be smart. It'd be smart to buy.
But no, like actual proper Pacific Heights, that's turning into Billionaires Row. You better be making Sam Altman AI money to be there. It's they're pricing out even the professional athletes. And then you've got obviously Seacliff, which is, Pack Heights on steroids. I'd say just about everything in Seacliff starts.
That's where Herson used to live.
Yeah, like a 15. Herson was a Seacliff guy.
Oh yeah, Camino del Mar. He lived on the edge of Camino del Mar. Right there, his next door neighbor was the late great Robin Williams, who built a retaining wall around his house. Robin Williams lived on the other side of the street though, where he had just an unbelievable, perfect view of the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, the Williams estate is something else, and he had the signs for happy and sad on the gates that opened, the classic happy and sad faces that have always accompanied show business. But anyway, if I were if you were say Justin Verlander, just Damon, you've lived in the city for a really long time, and I look at it this way: going from Pack Heights or Seacliff to the ballpark could take anywhere from a half an hour to an hour and a half, depending on traffic. If I were helping Justin Verlander with what's a convenient choice for you, I would say he should go to St. Francis Woods, because you can just go right down Monterey, hop on 280, and you can be at the ballpark in 15 minutes from St. Francis Woods. So
well, it's true. That's true. You got to get on the freeway to do it, and you got to get off there. I mean, personally, if you're living, let's just say you're living on DeViz and Pacific, right there on the hills of Pack Heights. You dip down to Bay Street, you pop out on Bay Street to the Embarcadero, you ride the Embarcadero down for 15 minutes along the Embarcadero.
As someone who commuted Embarcadero every day for like 9 years, sometimes Embarcadero is your friend, and other days it is your worst enemy, and it is stoplights everywhere. So,
yeah, I mean, if you're trying to get on the bridge, for sure, like getting on the bridge is rough going, especially if you're north of Market and you're trying to go on the Embarcadero. But still, it's like, man, I mean, if I'm one of these if I'm a Justin Verlander and I'm making big bucks, I either have a Pack Heights house, or the one thing I wouldn't do is I wouldn't do that Kittle. I wouldn't do that Hunter Pence thing where he's spending ridiculous amount of money to live in that high rise across the street, and you're just spending all this time in an elevator. That's my
recommendation to Verlander. Unless you and Kate are seriously thinking about settling down in San Francisco and retiring here, or you want an investment property that you'll never lose out on, and you want to go that route, you can do that. If Justin Verlander were smart, he'd get a 1-bedroom apartment in Dogpatch and just have to go right up 3rd Street on a bike to get to the ballpark.
None of those guys are doing that.
Or Kate, wants
to go to the
bridge in Alcatraz, and whatever Kate wants, she gets.
I'd want to. Only thing is the weather is really crap in the city. That's the one thing. Pacific Pack Heights would be great, but the weather sucks. So I think I would rather be like, if I had big cash and I could be anywhere, I think I'd like to be somewhere where I can, when I get home, I can have a pool and I can walk outside, put on.
Oh, you want to be in Atherton, Larry? You want to be in America's most expensive?
No. I want to be. No, I don't want to be in Atherton. Atherton's. I don't like Atherton. No, but I wouldn't mind being in like, like Danville, or certain areas of Pleasant. Like I like the hills, like
Black Hawk.
Well, no, like in Pleasanton, if you go like towards towards the bottom of the hill right there, those homes on the hill in Pleasanton that are right near the 586.
I tell you where you want to be. If
those are nice.
Money's no object.
You get great weather. I like the weather in Pleasanton.
If you're really living in that money's no object and you can plunk down anywhere, Belvedere, baby. Belvedere, Tiburon up there. Absolutely.
Tiburon, yeah, Tiburon, yeah.
You want to get to the ballpark.
It's a little cold, though, dude.
Well, you're in Northern California. It's going to be a little cold everywhere unless you go to the East Bay, in which case you're going to have some days where you're like, I would much rather have a little cold than 99 degrees for a month in a row.
Yeah, but you got to remember this. Most of these guys come from places where there's real summer. I mean, a lot of these guys live in Arizona, so they're not going to.
Verlander just spent half of his life in Texas, right? So
yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, you're going to have to deal with a whole lot less, you're going to be selling a lot of furniture. You move to San Francisco, you're going to be selling rooms and rooms of furniture. Anyway, that's going to do it for us. Join Damon at 11.
Jeff Kent, you're all crazy. What you paying out?
You guys are crazy to pay what you pay. You're so stupid. And then I put that on the radio, and then everybody booed him. And then he's like, he literally tried to choke me the next time I saw him. Fuji Simeon says Chiefs have Swift. Giants now have Kate Upton now. Oh, God. And we got this one from Fuji. Larry, I'm a Sunset District guy, and fog and cold, and I can still wear shorts and flip-flops. There you go. I love the Sunset. Great neighborhood to grow up in. Loved it. Very quiet neighborhood. I'll say this. I do love the Sunset District in the fall. Like when it gets really smoking in the East Bay or really, really hot downtown, man, you'd come out to the Sunset District or even where Damon's at over by Reardon. And in the summertime when it's smoking hot downtown, but the pressure system is right there. So you get the fog in the middle of the city.
Yeah,
that's what I love. I love like August in September in San Francisco when it's super hot, smoking downtown, but still kind of sunny and nice out by the avenues. Because normally it's sunny downtown, but foggy in the avenues. But if you can get it where it's, smoking downtown and just sunny in the avenues, the sunny days in the fall were the best to be in the sunset.
Oh, yeah. Look, when San Francisco has got its weather right, it's the most beautiful girl in the room. It really is.
Yeah.
But I actually like living in the fog belt. I like a foggy day. I don't mind a gray day.
I mean, it depends what time of the year. Like, right. I like the August fog. Why? Because the baseline temperature is still pretty warm, but you're cooled off, Like when I went down to visit my wife's grandparents lived in Palos Verdes. Palos Verdes is an outlet that goes literally out into the water. And it has a lot of the same characteristics, believe it or not, as the Sunset District, because you are in this outlet that goes out into the water. So Palos Verdes is foggy. I mean, it's foggy in the morning, It's foggy in the evening, but it's beautiful. It is absolutely
SGA Sports Talk has been a member now for 9 months, and he's already corrected himself in a follow-up chat saying, I meant Larry. Hi, Damon and Bruce. He meant hi, Damon and Larry. Good morning. Love the channels. You two rock. You make great content. Love all your videos. Well, can't ask for more than that. Thank you very, very much. Appreciate it. And thanks to everyone. And again, if you're driving through the city, just be careful on Embarcadero. That bridge traffic can absolutely eat you alive, Larry. You got to make sure that when you're coming down and you're about to cross over Market, that you're going to want to be all the way over in the left-hand lane, because that right-hand lane is going to be looking to turn up Harrison to get on that bridge. So you're going to want to be in the left.
Ralph, I always thought you used that Miata to pick up chicks. And I've done my due diligence, and I found out I was right.